for me, I had to work hard, and by working hard is kind of my strength in my career was my best game and worst game was very small gap between the two, and that's what coaches want. They want to know they can rely on someone, they know what they're going to get out of them, and that's kind of what happened. I would have been that kid that parents would have hated, like, he's not 13, why does he have a full beard? And that would have been me.
How important is that? Are we missing that today?
If I'm being honest, I've never considered myself competitive, which is probably weird because I played in the NRL.
Yeah.
But I was always very competitive against myself.
Welcome to another episode of the Lat Chat. I'm John Sardi, co-founder at Lat Chat Accountants. On our podcast, we like to highlight the journey of small business owners in Australia to provide you with an inspiration for your own business journey. Today's guest has many accolades: 233 NRL games for the Blue and Gold, Parramatta, 4 State of Origin appearances for the Blues, represented in many realms, Australian Prime Minister's 13, New South Wales City, and best of all, Lebanon Cedars Rugby League. Mannah, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks for having me. Thanks,
Jacob,
guys.
Thanks, mate. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Partner in crime.
Thank
the
you.
Robin to my Batman. thanks for being here,
Very
mate.
good. Thank you.
Tim Mannah.
I think I'm going to say best of all, Christian Community High School.
CCHS?
Yeah, I thought that our school team got to plug
We
in
did
there.
so well, they changed the name of the school, so no one
it changed
even knows.
now?
Yeah, they changed it to
cool.
Regent's Park Christian School.
That probably
Yeah.
makes more sense.
Yeah.
yeah.
We used to call it Rego anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mate,
Talk to me.
how's little Timmy going?
It's good to be. I'm doing well, thank you very much. I'm really good. It's been a great start to the year, and I'm excited about the next 9 months. What are we in? 8.5 months ago.
Yeah, 9 months. I know, it's going quickly, mate. I hope you don't mind. I wanted to go on a little deep dive into your childhood. So,
Oh no.
I didn't.
No.
We're not going to reveal all the dirty little secrets that we know. Just some of the things that we used to do growing up in and around. But the old days, Condell Park, Lebanese boy, growing up in the area, church, family, brothers, cousins. What was it like? Tell me a bit about, how do you remember those times?
I loved it. Obviously we had a pretty similar upbringing, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think we had a very lucky upbringing. We had a beautiful family, good support network, a church environment. Even gone to school together. We all lived close. We went to school together, with the church together, and I wouldn't trade my upbringing for anything. So it was great in that sense. I think you look around and everyone has their own different experiences growing up, but I loved every part of it.
Yeah, no, it's good. So I've got like a very good memory. So
I know you do. I don't. But by all means, go ahead. Let's go.
I thought when I was preparing to interview you, because we're good mates, we go back and we've had a lot of conversations. I thought I've got some memories, but as you get older, you don't know if you're making up memories. So I think sometimes I think some of the memories are real, some may be made up. So I wanted to use this as an opportunity for you to help validate or deny some of these things that happen. So it's a bit of a true or false, but I do want you to elaborate. But I've got a memory of in the early days, probably I want to say not even 10 years old.
Yep.
I'm at a park in Greenacre, and I'm watching you play soccer, not football.
Yep.
True story.
True story. Yeah. I started when I was 8, played till I was 12.
And
Soccer.
This again could be this could be wrong, but bro, I'm telling you, I swear you were about 4 times bigger than the other players.
Yes.
I felt like, and I have a memory where you're kicking a game, maybe a game-winning goal.
Yeah.
A game-winning grand final goal, something.
Yeah, I got 2 in the grand final, 2 goals in the grand final.
2 goals in the grand final.
I still remember I think we won 3-1. Soccer. I used to love soccer. I used to, be obsessed with it. Then, like you said, my body shape was probably more suited to a different sport. So I played footy when I was 13. So up until 13, it was all soccer.
All the way,
and the only reason I played footy is because we used to play, in our backyard with each other, and obviously my cousins would influence us to go for the Bulldogs and all that. So obviously we knew league, but never gave it a crack. And then 13 years old, my brother and I went over, started playing footy.
Started playing footy.
Away we went.
That's it. Because I remember you were playing soccer, and I was like, this guy, because I was playing rugby league, so Dad put me in footy like as young as I can remember, and I remember saying, if this guy who's playing soccer right now, scoring 2 goals, if he plays rugby league, they're not going to be able to tackle him. He's huge. He's robust. And then, so you make the switch, and then I've got this other memory which I wanted to validate. Again, I don't know if I've dressed it up in my mind, but I went to a game. So you've just started playing rugby league.
Yep.
I remember it's somewhere around Punch Bowl. You're playing for, I think, Twin Willows.
Yep.
And it's literally one of the first games you're playing, I reckon, and you score 7 tries.
Yes. Yeah. So my first ever game was like a trial game, and I scored 4 tries in that game. And then my first round game, like of the season, I scored 7, which is ironic because I only scored 6 in my whole NRL career. So I peaked pretty early. But a lot of it was I was a much bigger kid. Like I would have been that kid that parents would have hated. Like he's not 13. Why does he have a full beard? And so that would have been me.
That was him. I remember that. It was just you were a freak of nature, and then everyone else sort of caught up to you in So like you went from being the biggest kid, smashing everyone, and then you're playing, and then so you're getting through a bit on size, but then you have to start to get through on talent and things like that. So definitely true that you scored a game-winning grand final soccer goal.
Yep.
7 tries in one game of rugby league.
So that year with Twin Willows, my first year, I got 72 tries. So I still got the plaque.
72 tries.
Leading try scorer in the Canterbury comp.
Leading try scorer in the juniors for the Canterbury comp.
Yes, 72.
72 tries.
All from forward?
Yeah, I was under 13s at that time, but I was fat too, man. I would come on near the try line, just barge over and then go for a break and have a breather.
100%. Yeah. Now, like, I think I've got this other memory I want you to validate. I feel like growing up, you were the cousin, the guy in the group where all the older boys used to pick on you and make you do things for their entertainment. Yeah,
like line us up against each other and just run as hard as you can.
I was going to say, I didn't know if you bring it up.
Yeah.
But I've got this memory. I don't know how old we are, but I was also well-rounded child.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in the academic sense. I was definitely eating, above my average, the average calorie intake. So I remember, I think cousin Jimmy making us stand opposite sides of the park, George's Hall, and just saying to us for about half an hour, listen, this is how you guys are going to make NRL. You just have to run as hard as you can at each other and hit each other and fall over.
Yes.
And to me and you, that was like,
normal.
Sounds like, all right, that's what we do. So I would stand on one side and he would stand on the other side. Now, to his disadvantage, I'm about 2 years older, a year and a half older than you. To my disadvantage, you went on to play for the Blues.
So I don't know if you talk about it on your podcast. You were a good footy player when we were school.
We played some footy. We played some footy, but I just remember running, and then I remember like we'd get to the point where we'd hit each other, and then he'd say like we would naturally do defensive mechanisms, like we'd put our arms in or like try shoulder, and he goes, no, you can't put your arms up. You have to do it again. And now this time when you run at each other, you just run and don't put your hands up, just collide in the middle and fall over. And then we look over and they're just laughing at 2 fat kids running at each other falling over.
So that was before I played footy, and that's kind of what made me want to play footy. It was all that like the backyard stuff, the running into each other. Let's play.
The backyard footy. Growing up, one of my childhood memories is going to your house, going downstairs to the rumpus room.
Mattress footy,
playing footy. And there's, sometimes without the mattress, because you had like carpet, but it was like hard concrete underneath.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop us.
No. It was
backyard cricket and all those sorts of things. You mentioned you grew up in the Bulldogs heartland. I'm a big Bulldogs fan.
Yep.
And then how on earth did you end up with the enemy, Parramatta Eels?
So I played that first year with Twin Willows, which is in Canterbury comp, which was in Bass Hill, like 5 minutes from my house. So that was my local team. But then the next year when we went to under-14s, they started playing Sundays. My parents were going to church and they wouldn't be able to take me to games.
Yep.
So Parramatta comps were still playing Saturdays. So I just found my local Parramatta team, which was at Guildford. So it was an extra 15 minutes away.
Yep.
But they played Saturdays, so I went to Guildford. And that first year in the Parramatta comp, I got signed as a 14-year-old with Parramatta and kind of went through. So it could have been the other way. It could have been easily been a Bulldog if the days weren't like. That's literally the only reason I went to the Parramatta comp.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking for me because like I'm telling you, from that from that young age, I was like, this guy's gonna make it, because I'm watching you, you're running into me, you're smashing me, and you're younger than me, and then I see you score 7 tries, and like, just because Bulldogs comp don't play on Saturday, we're gonna lose future Bulldogs front rower. You know what I mean? And then you left.
Yeah.
And then you really hurt my feelings. Yeah. I have to tell you about that. I think this is like
you're getting all out of it. Yeah, it's a therapy session.
You really hurt my feelings, because you make your debut in the Eels, and then 2009, I think you guys having a run to the grand final, and along the way you beat the Bulldogs.
Yeah, the game before the grand final.
The game before the grand final. Can you tell me about? Well, tell me about that. Like that. That experience was.
That was a highlight for me, because that was still my favorite game. Like, more than Origin, that was my favorite game of my career. And it wasn't because it was the Bulldogs, but to get into the grand final, I got to score my first try in that game.
Yeah.
And it was the only game it was a record crowd, and I remember it was the only time they ever asked you who you went for when you bought your tickets. So as you come out of the tunnel, it was literally split in half. You could just see blue and white and then blue and gold. Like, the whole game was back and forth. So it was
a big crowd, wasn't it?
Yeah. 70-something.
70,000, yeah.
Yeah.
And you went out, and I remember, so I was I had, moved into a new unit at the time. You're making, like, my life's in disarray at that time, all right? Like, in the sense, I'm moving house. I remember I was struggling to get the TV connected. I'm seriously in debt. I'm newly married as a kid. I don't know what I'm doing with myself. And then I turn on the TV to watch, like, the only thing that made me happy during the week was that Bulldogs are on a run in 2009, and they're doing really well. And then I see my childhood friend, someone I grew up with, scoring a try to eliminate our team we grew up going for, eliminate them from the final series, and then he goes on, like, they go on to win, and Bulldogs lose. And I just remember feeling like that was your high point of your life. Was the bottom point of your life.
Apparently, our Auntie Vera
was
watching it somewhere with all the people at her house, and when I scored, she turned the TV off and walked out.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. So I'm moving. So my house is boxes. I got boxes everywhere. All I've got in the lounge room, I'm living in Pyrmont at the time, I've got one lounge and I've got a TV. And I'm fighting with my wife and telling everyone off because they're trying to move the house, and I've stopped everything so I could just plug in the TV, get reception, and watch this game. And he literally crosses, and I have this feeling of, like, 1% of, like, happiness and being proud that my mate first grade is winning a finals game, scoring a try, and then 99% I want to break my TV, turn it off. I turn off the TV, and that rage, came inside. And then I thought, it took me a few years to get over it, so I didn't speak to him for about another year, and then we got the show back on the road.
It was a few lean years for Parramatta as well after that. So,
bro, when you coming home, to the Dogs, that's why I
still get that. Oh no, now
you get that
the whole career I was like, when are you going back to the Dogs? I was never there.
Well, you got that. You still got that record, but
I was on that record.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
You still got that record, man. We do this thing on the podcast, Jacob. We send out the questionnaire, like a generic questionnaire goes out to all the guests. Tell me about you. We asked you, who were you in high school? You said Tim Mannah. That was the.
I don't know if he was taking the piss or if he just answered the question.
Yeah, I didn't know how to answer that because I didn't know the right way to answer that, but. Yeah, I was a little bit rushed while I was going through it, but
so you identified as Tim Mannah back then. What do you identify as now?
I'm still Tim Mannah, yeah. Different Tim Mannah. I feel like the young Tim Mannah was much more carefree than
the new Tim Mannah.
Yeah.
Man, I can attest to the fact that I don't think Tim Mannah has changed. I think you're still the same Tim Mannah, man.
Well, I don't have as much hair.
Yeah, you've got some hair.
Probably carrying a bit more of my mud guts than I used to.
Mate, it's all
young Tim had a lot of mud guts as well. So
talking about mud guts, food. Another thing, like the Tim Mannah story is a rugby league story, one. But number two, knowing you very well, it's more than that. It's a food story.
It's a food romance. Yeah.
It's a food romance.
Yeah.
So growing up, I had a death in the family. Mm-hmm. It was a very sad time. Obviously, my uncle passed away. Tragic. And then my memories around then was who came around me to support me in that time, and a very loyal friend and family, Tim Mannah, came to my house, and I remember this very clearly. I don't know if you remember this day, but we went into my garage, which was a makeshift gym, because, as you do, being a Lebo and Greenacre growing up, you always have to have a gym in the garage.
Yeah.
And I remember the way he made me feel better was he brought ice cream, Tim Tams, condensed milk in a tube, biscuits, and he goes, look, man, I know you're going through a hard time. Him, Benji, and myself, we sat in my garage and we ate junk food for about 4 hours.
While surrounded by gym equipment.
Surrounded by gym equipment, yeah. We probably did a workout after, so you were there for me at the time. What is the Tim Mannah food obsession, mate?
I'm very passionate about it because it's like, for example, I'm going on holidays. I don't care what we do. You know, go water skiing, jet skiing, whatever. As long as I know what my meals are going to be, like that's the highlight of my trip. So
you planned the trip.
I revolve my trip. I revolve my days around what I'm going to eat for that day.
Yeah. Like I have seen you take out a ice cream tub, like I don't know if they come in liters, like.
Yeah, I've graduated from. I go to gelato now, so like I like the freshly made.
Yeah.
And I'll do a tub.
So this is the thing. You go to an ice cream, like this is a guy, but it's not like you're a fat kid and you used to do that and then like you become an NRL superstar and now your like body's a temple. It's you still eat the same stuff. You just train like a psycho.
I do, yeah. And I enjoy training.
Yeah.
But if I didn't train, I'd be 160 kilos.
What's your like? Do you get up early? What's your routine like?
Routine, yeah. So I get up usually every morning about 5:40.
Yeah.
And I'll get to the gym. I usually spend 2 hours. I'll do like half an hour of cardio. I'll do an hour of weights and half an hour in the sauna, and then
that's what you got to do to work off all the calories, huh?
Yeah. I sometimes think if I ate well, I'll get. I don't know. I'll probably look better. I did 11 years in NRL without ever having a six pack. So if I didn't have it then,
you're a forward.
If I didn't have it then, I'm not gonna have it now.
If you're gonna play at the top level and not get a six pack, working like NRL, regimen, you're never gonna get a six pack.
Here we are. We've got Andy Elliott on Instagram yelling at everyone to get
six
packs. Yeah, we've got an NRL superstar.
Look, let me attest to this guy, his love of food and how it influenced me. I'm not trying to say I was really fat growing up just because of you. It had something to do with it, but not because of you. I went on a trip in 2014 to USA, all right? So I planned this trip meticulously. I wanted to go to seven cities. I wanted from west coast to east. Everything was worked out perfectly. We ended in Mexico. But like last minute, this guy gets a hold of me before I go, and he's been to America like soon before that. So I went in 2014. He'd been, on a trip before that sometime. He goes, John, listen to me. I go, yeah. He goes, if you're going to USA, you have to go to this one restaurant in Dallas.
Yes.
Chamberlain's.
Oh.
So he's still talking about it. It's been over 10 years. He's still talking about it. He goes, but this is the problem you created for me. So I'm going on a trip, me, my mate, his wife, Abud, his wife, my wife at the time. She's still my wife. We're going to the States. They've planned this whole trip. And because this guy says to us, you have to go to Chamberlain's, go to Dallas, go to Chamberlain's, we changed the whole last 3 days of the trip. And let me tell you, the misso was not happy about having to change.
And it's not a fancy place. It's not somewhere it is fancy, but it's in the suburbs. It's like, as a tourist, I wouldn't recommend it any more to people.
I understand you're backtracking it now, champ, but the trip's already done, mate. We've already been there. And let me tell you what I went through to get to this restaurant. Yeah. So the budget's exhausted, all right? So all the fancy hotels, they've been paid for, in Vegas, New York, Miami, there's no more money. So everything is 5-star all the way. But to do Dallas, this extra leg of the trip, we booked the worst motel you've ever seen in Dallas, okay? We've got, because we're traveling with 4 people, each person has 2 bags, okay? Because we've done all the shopping in New York and everything, so it's the end of the trip. This motel has put us in a room which is on the third story, and it stairs all the way up.
Oh, wow.
So I am literally carrying these huge bags, 20-kilo bags each side, going up these stairs, and my wife's telling me she's just, as soon as we landed in Dallas, she was angry. What am I doing here? Yeah. I can't believe we came here for a restaurant. All this, was staying this disgusting motel and all that. But the saving grace was when we went to the restaurant, I had the best experience. I mentioned why we were sent there. The guy who served us remembered him from one trip.
No way.
Yeah.
2 years earlier.
I went there 2010, first time, and went with Eric Growth Jr., Shane Shackleton, a few of my old teammates, and we spent a couple of nights in Vegas. We break away from the team, went to Dallas. We land in Dallas, we're tired, we check in the hotel, just go to the guy, is there any good place to get a steak here? And there's this African-American with dreadlocks, and he's like, and he just writes this thing on the thing, goes, yeah. So we go there and just blew our socks off. We went 3 nights in a row. So then I came back.
3 nights in a row to the same restaurant, mind you.
Yeah. 8 years later, I'm back in that restaurant. I was stopping in Dallas for a night before coming home. I was by myself. So I went there for dinner. And this waiter, Ricky, sees me. And like, you came here with some Australians, with some rugby players from Australia. It was 8 years earlier. Not only did he remember me, he remembered my order. So don't you remember when we did one of that big filet? We went to the chef and I was impressive, very impressive. Yeah.
Service in America though.
It's a different ball game. It's the hospitality experience in America. It just if
you lived in the States for 6 months.
I did 6 months. I did a 6 month stint in Oregon. I went to college, did all the things. It's just a different ball game. It's being a waiter's a profession there.
Yeah.
It's like the bloke or the girl will remember your order years in advance. Before I can even put my cup down to take another sip, it's back to full. I've never seen my glass go below 3/4 full because they're topping it up every 3 seconds. Wining, dining you, they're earning their money. It's a different ball game.
Why do you reckon it's like that there?
They're working for tips. So their wage is very low and they make most of the money off tips. So if the service is bad, they get less money. So they've created
skin in the
culture.
game.
Yeah.
Skin in the game.
They've got skin in the game. So so the tips thing, it's working to improve the businesses to the point where someone's going to have an experience in another country telling his mates, you have to change your whole trip just to go to have that experience at that restaurant. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Versus here in Australia, there's no tipping culture.
Yeah.
What's the service like then? It's rubbish.
Oh, yeah. It's
you know what
questionable.
I mean? It's one of those, one of those things where it's like the more you force with like, you move away from the free market. So the free market is people working skin in the game. If they serve you well, they get paid well, versus the socialist, capitalist mindset where everyone has to get fair, equal wages and all that. And we love that people get what they deserve, but that's the one industry where you clearly see the difference in
100%.
You're working hard for your money, trying to prove that you're adding value and you get money for your service. And then over here, mate, you go to a restaurant some restaurant. I mean, some are great, like some are good. The creme de la creme are still good at what they do, but 90% of them, you feel like you're working for them.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? And you go in and now like you order on the table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You scan the barcode.
Yeah.
And then you do the thing, and they've got the nerve to ask you
to leave
for a tip on the app.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not even coming to my table and asking me what I want. You're not even telling me what's good here anymore. I have to do it. It's all, you know what I mean? It's someone like me behind the scenes saying it would be more efficient if you just get an app and no one has to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Speaking of great service and good with people, where's Tufik?
Mate, Tufik, my co-founder of Latitude Accountants, mate. I try my best to bring him out. Wheel him out on to the big stage, the Lat Chat podcast.
Yep.
But he hasn't made his debut yet.
Hasn't made a debut yet.
He did, however, hear you were coming in today.
It was the closest we got him.
It was the closest we got. He asked us a question. Do you remember what that was?
To ask me a question?
Yeah.
No, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, please. What was the
question?
I don't know. I can't remember what it is. So you got to decide.
He was trying to call you yesterday.
Yeah, I had a missed call from you.
Yeah, you missed his call. So all right, I'll save you the call back. Effectively, he wanted you to go to Peter Wins with him because he wanted a 20% discount.
Too big walks in. He goes, I need to buy 5 Parramatta jerseys. I need you to come with me to Peter Wins to get 20% off. So Peter Win, mate, if you're watching.
We've just had a record week. We've just had a record week at Latitude Accountants.
We've just signed more clients.
And he's going to save that $30. It's going to be worth it.
This guy sends me, my mate Tufik, my co-founder, partner in crime, sends me a photo this week on my phone. It's just a photo, no context. It's a photo of a pallet, and on the pallet, it's full of charcoal. Okay? Just, heat beads for your barbecue. So they're $6.50.
Half price, yes.
Okay? And the question, and I question marks, and then I say to him, what's going on? He's like, do you think we should probably get your dad's truck and we should just buy all of them? Because he loves a discount.
I feel like he hasn't left the villages of Lebanon yet.
His mind is still there.
Yeah, he's still in Nam, man. He never left. Mate, so Tufik hasn't made his debut.
You know what?
Yeah.
I genuinely reckon the viewers would love to see him.
I
genuinely think he'll add a new dimension to
We're
this
working
chat.
our way up, so it's,
Well,
we've got like some local, sports heroes. Eventually we'll bring out the
we
big
get to the
guns.
creme de la
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Bringing it back to the rugby league, Blues grand final, lots of reps footy and all that. Like you said, the Parramatta game was the highlight, but for us growing up, this is something that we shared in common as well, and we still share in common. Love of the Blues. You're wearing the New South Wales cap.
Yes.
What was it like playing for the New South Wales Blues?
I only played 4 games, so sometimes you get that imposter syndrome where you feel like, you only played a few games. But then we had like a reunion last week, and it was interesting hearing guys that played like 20 games, so they still feel the same thing.
Same feeling, yeah.
But it's always special. Like it's, you grow up, and we grew up watching it together, and
Yeah.
it was always, like the peak of sport we saw in our eyes. So it was always a goal, and as soon as I debuted, I was straight away thinking, I would love to play Origin. Like you just wanted the next thing.
Yep.
And sometimes I actually genuinely think sometimes young kids playing these days don't have that. Like they are happy just to play first grade.
Yep.
But for me, it was always like, how do I get into the Origin arena?
That's no small thing. You're saying like kids are happy playing first grade. They're not as excited to play Origin now as what we would have been growing up.
No, I'm not saying all of them, but yeah, a lot of them are just like they're happy to be living the dream, getting paid, playing first grade on TV.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was coming through, it was always okay. Now, how do I get to that next level? I want to play Origin. I want to do something.
Yeah.
I never won a comp, but it was always like there's always a drive. I was never just happy just to be there.
Yeah. And then I think it's true when you say you have that drive and determination. Like I wanted to circle back to that because that for me is like when I look at you as a person, I see someone that's like very determined, like you want to achieve, all these things, football, sport, business, and all that. You've done all the things in rugby league, and you've done exceptional career, and then you had to go transition to life after rugby league. So, when I think about you, I always say when I grow up, I want to be Tim Mannah because you're so busy and like you're doing so many things. Yeah. But what's life like for you, like after rugby league, and like what are you doing now?
Well, obviously having WOG parents like ours, I was never able to not study. So as soon as I finished high school, I started my sports business degree. It's supposed to be a 3-year degree. It took me about 10 years to finish. But I did my sports business degree, did my financial planning diploma, I did my real estate license. I did a NIDA course for TV presenting. So my whole career was practicing for life after footy. I felt like I was ready for it whenever it was going to happen. The last 3 years of my career, I was doing like a day a week with the club, looking after our sponsors, like learning that space. And then I retired. I took that role with the club, looking after our commercial partners. So that was kind of like I thought I'd be for the next 30 years. That's what I want to do. I love commercial sport. I love corporate sport. And 6 months in, I had an opportunity to go to one of my clients and to present to him in his boardroom an opportunity on the jersey. So he's an entry-level sponsor. I'm like, this is the opportunity. It's a big jump, but, do you want to do it? He and I go back and forth for a few weeks doing the deal. He signs the deal, and I've done my first big signing. The day after, he said, can I meet you with your boss? I want to have a chat with you. So I go catch up with Bill Constantinitis in his office, and we talk about starting a part of a business that we can attach to his business and grow it and make a meal of it. And I took the opportunity, and looking back now, Bill's probably the best thing that happened to me in terms of when I look at my transition out of football. He's been the best because he taught me, if we want to do like a rent an office, he'll take me to experience what that means. So have a look at the office spaces, understand what a deal looks like, how to do a rental agreement. When we're hiring staff, when we're firing staff, when you're looking at opportunities, when you're looking at doing a JV, when you're looking to do an acquisition, like all that, he took me on the journey. I learnt more in my first 12 months with him than I did, 12 years of study. Yep. So really grateful for him taking me under his wing.
So this is you moved into post-career through that path into Lending Association.
Yeah, so Lending Association it's a finance company. We're Australia's largest privately owned mortgage broker. So we have 160 staff now across 11 offices around the country, and I've been there for almost 4 years, and to be part of that journey and see when we had 35 staff and see what it looks like to go from that to that, and all the the ride that you have along with it, it's been amazing. So really grateful for that opportunity, and my part of the business is partnerships. So I work with primarily accountants around the country and service their clients that need funding, and I really enjoy that because I like being around people and it suits me.
Suits you, and you're a people person, and you're very busy, and you're always connecting with new people. So I see that in you. Man, you speak fondly of a founder in your business, like a mentor, going through that journey. What's it like coming into a business and like being like fundamental in that business and being like I think call it entrepreneur or someone who's in the business but trying to create a business in a business and then trying to tie into someone else's vision? Like, what do you think makes someone? How do you latch on to be valuable and tying into someone else's vision?
Yeah, I talk about imposter syndrome with the Origin team. I had a bit of imposter syndrome too when I first started because even though I did I understood finance well, I was sitting in. I still remember my first town hall with their team and guys that had been in the industry for decades. So there was times where I was thinking, I'm in over my head here. Like, these guys know finance way better than I do. But Bill was really good. He was very encouraging. So he'd always encourage me in front of the group. So they kind of felt more confident with me as well. And then I started getting some wins on the board in what I was doing. And then I got more and more confident with what I was doing. And then you felt like, okay, I can actually do this.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that ride. It wasn't natural for me, like sport for me and anything to do with sport. Like, if you wanted me to do a commercial agreement with ASICS and Parramatta, I can do that tomorrow and I'd feel so comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
Doing the stuff in the finance world where I didn't understand like all the nitty gritty stuff was sometimes challenging, but now I've got to the stage now where I'm really confident with everything that happens. I love the little team we built.
Yeah.
And our space in the business is something I really enjoy.
So you're more like naturally suited to the marketing, the people, the brand, because that's like the rugby league side prepared you for that, and it's the finance side that's a bit.
Well, we built there's no real opposition or competitor to us because Bill had the vision to invest and do pay for the resources to do a team that looks after the referrer. So most brokers are a couple, one or two man band. They're just trying to do all this work, and if a deal comes on their table, they'll put you on the back burner. And Bill will say, he's pretty honest, I've been around for 10 years. I've had people refer me work. Sometimes I'll see my inbox for 2 months, I won't get to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do it, and I'll forget to thank him, or I'll buy him a bottle of scotch, or I'll take him for dinner.
Yeah.
Because it's very ad hoc. People send them to us because we're good at what we do, but I'm not really good at looking after the referrer. So we've got a whole team now that we just service the referrer. So if a referrer came to us and said, hey, can you look after this person for a loan? We'll do it, and I'll take the client to the team, and they'll onboard them through the concierge team. But then after that, once the client's looked after, I'm giving the referrer updates. Hey, this is where your client's up to. This is a status update of each one with us. And the referrer starts getting on the journey with us, and it's no longer just a flick a name and number. They're actually like a partner of ours.
What he's saying there sounds like what we're doing at Latitude Accountants every day.
So it's called the term, the theoretical textbook term is the Dream 100. He's taking care of the Dream 100 is the people who own your list. So you've obviously identified that the accountant owns the business owner that you're seeking to help with the finance deal.
Yep.
So if you can just go straight to the accountant, you've the efficiency of, rather than going to each individual client, just going to the person that owns the list and then getting referrals and taking care of that person, making sure their clients are taken care of, etc. There's another book I'm going to shout out called Unreasonable Hospitality. So Unreasonable Hospitality speaks about pretty much what we talked about with the American restaurant service, with the it sounds like the concierge sort of style that you're talking about, where you just take care of the person. It's like you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Take care of that person. Make it a world-class experience. Make it the term came from, there was a restaurant, I forgot the restaurant name, but it's in New York. And one time a few diners came in to eat, and the parking meter was due to expire, and they're looking at their watch and they might not get the dessert. And so rather than, rush them out the door, they got someone to go and pay for their parking. And it's better for the business because their parking, the person's just had an unreal experience.
They're not going to leave.
They're not going to leave, so they're getting the dessert menu, they're getting the dessert wines. You've made more per customer.
You can do that with the resources. So that's what you're saying there. So like you're putting yourself up against, like, if you've got like a brokerage which doesn't have the resources to provide the service. So this is actually right on point with what we're trying to build. So what we're trying to build at Latitude Accountants is basically a team of accountants that provide that same service.
Yep.
You're speaking about service. So we've got our core values. We always say, are you on track? The T stands for team player. And like everything we do is emphasizing like the client obviously first, servicing the client together and doing it as a team. And I find myself whenever I'm leading the team, or like it's my job to inspire all the staff and to lead them and to believe in that vision. I'm drawing on Rugby League analogies in my head. Like we had our strategy day, a month ago, and I we had the team around, and I told them the story about when I was playing footy as a kid. We were 33-0 down at halftime in a game. Bulldogs, Enfield Feds versus Greenacre Grasshoppers at the time, and we ended up winning the game like 60 points to 33. So we had a big halftime loss, and Frank Winterstein was in that team, ended up playing NRL, and a few other boys. So you've gone into lending, and you're good with the marketing, and you're good with brand and people, and then you're talking about team. Do you think now, this is, I want to hear what your thoughts are, but do you think finance, I think accounting is going this way, but do you think delivering finance, brokerage is really like moving from an individual sport to a team sport? Do you see it as a team sport now, like the fact that you have team?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way we set our business up, it's very siloed. So like even the broker isn't doing anything on their own. So my job is to get the leads in, so the broker doesn't go looking for leads. And the broker will have a team of associates that will look after, ordering vowels and doing data entry and all that stuff. So then the broker is really focusing on taking care of the client and working with the bank. Then when he gets approved for settlement, we've got a settlements team that handle the lawyers and the banks and the clients to make sure it goes smoothly. Then after that, we've got a post-settlements team that onboard the client afterwards, seeing the internet banking details, send them everything they need to know. If you need any help, you're the person. So even our business, there's no, everything's been solid off to make sure that that it's not just one person doing everything. It's like everyone playing their part to make sure the client and the customer gets the best experience.
I see that, and we've worked with lending before, at Lending Association. We see that and the value in team, having a concierge and all that, and we mimic that in the team as well. So many accountants go out and they want to actually operate from a sole trader perspective, like out on their own, sole operator. In accounting, in the last 10 years, we've seen like a huge increase in compliance, a lot of red tape. I imagine finance would be the same, but when I started in accounting, GST was new. It only came in 2001.
It was temporary as well.
It was new, and maybe it was temporary. I can't even remember, but it was, GST is still a thing which is just starting. And then they started taking fringe benefits tax and capital gains tax seriously, even though they came about in the 80s. Like, it was not taken seriously until the early 2000s. Then, Div 7A clamped down. Then
STP.
single touch payroll more recently. Director penalty notices and director responsibilities went up. Director IDs have come in. Taxable payment annual reports have come in. Yeah. It's like what it took to be a one-man band accountant in 1995, where you sat once a year with a company or an individual and did their annual tax return, and then you saw them again in 12 months. It's a totally different game now. Like right now, the compliance burden in accounting, which probably exactly the same as finance, is so high that you cannot you can't be the Roger Federer of accounting on your own. It's literally, you just have to be, what's the best team out there? You have to be the Melbourne Storm, the Penrith Panthers right now of accounting or finance, where it's just everyone works together perfectly to get the result for the client.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that 100%. And it's I think every industry is changing. Every industry is evolving, which is a good thing. It means that there's innovation. It means people learning what people actually like. I think there was a real stalemate for about 20 years where everyone was stuck doing the same thing, or 9 to 5, sitting at your desk, and people are learning that you can actually branch outside of that and still be more productive and more efficient.
Yeah. So you're in the world of finance now, post-Rugby League, and I'm looking around at the economy. So I bought a house in 2022 with a big mortgage, and the day I bought my house, we won the auction, way more money than I could afford, way more. All right. The next day, Putin invaded Ukraine. And then there was like a Suez Canal crisis, and then literally the very next RBA meeting, they started putting interest rates up. So I got a loan on a seven-figure sum, undisclosed seven-figure sum, and then I saw interest rates go up from 2% to 6%, literally the month after I settled bought my house, and it happened. It went from 2 to 6%, so repayments doubled. It's caused me a bit of pain. I won't lie to you. I'm okay now. It's got me a bit of
Most nights I'm okay, but
like it's all right, but like it would have been better if it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's happened. Was the Russia Ukraine thing, Israel Palestine, interest rates going up, inflation through the roof. You're right in the heart of the finance industry. So what I want to ask you really is like, what are you seeing? How are people coping?
Well, surprisingly, people are still buying, which is crazy. It just shows the Australians love their property. But for us, we're always busy regardless, because when the rates are low, everyone wants to buy it. Everyone's going nuts buying stuff, and we're doing all their lending. And when the rates are high, everyone's looking to refinance for a lower rate. So the banks are naturally not going to give you the best rate. When you get given your new rate from the bank.
Well, why don't they give you naturally give you the best rate, the banks?
Because and this is just me speculating, but I'm sure they're trying to figure out how long they can get away with charging you more. So you'd be surprised how many times you can get a lower rate just by asking. So a lot of it is us helping clients restructure what that current debt is. And during the low rates that we had for years, everyone was just buying stuff, and a lot of people are really spread and have different different debt everywhere. So with us, we can help consolidate that and figure out, okay, well, if we do X, we can actually help you save this much money because we've able to bring it all together, lower the rate, and that's what we do a lot of at the moment. But also, there's still a lot of buying. Developers have slowed down a bit, but we're still doing a lot of construction work as well.
Mate, me and you have a lot of barbecues. We get around, we do, throw steaks on and whatever. And the first go-to topic without fail is always Sydney property. Like I've had more Sydney property discussions with you than rugby league, life, politics, anything put together. Yes. Sydney property. We grew up in Sydney. We're sick. Sydney people are sick. When it comes to property, we've got a disease. It's something about property.
See, I don't know why my algorithm's got maybe because I've been in Texas a lot, but I get these houses in Texas, like these mansions that come up on my Instagram.
Yeah, for $5.
Yeah, for like 350 grand. 350 grand. I'm like, what is wrong with us in Sydney? Like, why are we paying $1.5 million for a fibro shack that's about to get knocked down? Like,
and I'm getting this real, like, I'm becoming a Sydney property snob. Like, I love Patrick Bet-David or like all these guys in America, and you see their mansions, and I respect that, and I know the 20, 30, $100 million mansions on it, but something inside me, like, I just look at him and I go, you couldn't afford that in Sydney. Do you know what I mean? 100%. Like, I look at someone buys a house in Sydney, I'm like, okay, you've made it in the property scene now. Like, you could show me a mansion anywhere else if it's not in Sydney. Where are the Sydney property prices going? Tim Mannah, if I had to put you on a spot, gun to your head, where are they going?
I think the blue ribbon's always going to stay high. The blue ribbon's always going to keep going up. The blue ribbons are never going to drop or crash.
Yep.
I think where there was some hurt was the people that bought out west, when the boom went crazy and people were paying $1.5 million for a small block in Mount Druitt or wherever it might be. I think those are the
some of those dip back, you reckon?
Those would have dipped back, and they're not going to climb much quicker. Whereas I feel like the blue ribbon ones, they're still exceeding, reserves at auctions and stuff. So there's still people that are hungry to buy the nice ones. Yeah.
So you're bullish on property. Australian property, Sydney property,
going
up.
Titanic.
I've heard this analogy day one.
I'll never sink.
They all laughed as they nervously drank. Heavily invested in Sydney property.
I'll be the guy playing the violin on the deck as we're going down. The property is great.
It is a bit like that, eh? It's like, I keep saying, like, we do a lot of property talks, even on this pod, when we brought on Ravi Sharma, he's a buyer's agent, and I'm like, man, like, surely it can't just keep going. Like, it doesn't make sense anymore. No one can afford to buy. It just defies all logic, but Sydney property prices keep going up. I looked at CoreLogic data for last month. One of my CoreLogic collects all data on all property in Australia, and their YouTube page only gets 21 views every month, and I'm those 21 views. I don't know why, but you have to watch it because he gets on there and he tells you every month what's happening in every capital city. And for 11 months straight now, Australian property prices have gone up, and we just keep buying. And I don't know, I think outside of the Great Depression happening again in Australia or a war impacting Australia, I think that it needs something of like severe magnitude to come in and actually disrupt and pop the balloon.
Yeah. I got a question for you because you're the accountant in the room.
Thanks, mate.
So I'd love to know your thoughts. You're talking about your debt that you had in your house, big debt.
Yeah.
Are you of the opinion that you should try to minimise that as quick as possible, or your opinion that you should? Yeah,
that's good. Well, you know what? It's a good question. I always have these these are really philosophical discussions about property, because I sit down with business owners and individuals every day, and we're always looking at their structure diagram. So they come into the office, we get up on the boardroom, we put their names on the board, what entities they have. They got a company, they got a trust, they got a super fund, and then we've got shapes for everything: commercial property, residential property, and then we list what's the value of the home in current time, what's the mortgage, and then what are you trying to achieve. And what I've learnt more and more is that there's no set answer of if you should buy or sell property, or if you should pay off your home first, or pay off pay off an investment, or leverage the equity to buy more property. What we drive at is, what is your specific goal? Like, I had one guy in here yesterday who had a goal to become a property developer. He's invested across 4 properties where every one of them was leveraged really highly, and they were passive investments. So they were getting him a good rent return, but effectively they were strangling his borrowing capacity because he exceeded his borrowing capacity, and he didn't have money to do the developments. He wanted to build a duplex. He had a duplex site. The bank would not give him the money, after speaking to his brokers and all that, to make that happen. So he had to make the decision he's looking to make the decision to sell off those passive investments, pull out some of that equity by selling, increasing his borrowing capacity so he can go back and do the development. So for him, the answer was free up some borrowing capacity and spend more of that money doing developments. For some people,
would you not be better off getting a second tier or private lending?
Potentially. So we talked about those options, and he's going to have discussions with the broker. So we don't give financial advice, but we flesh out ideas. But we speak about the concepts, right? Yeah. So he could potentially keep those properties, but for him, the goal wasn't to build a huge passive investment portfolio. For him, the goal was to be a developer where he's buying more property, developing and selling, and he wanted to continue to snowball that into bigger and bigger developments. Some people come in and their goal is to pay off their home. Okay, and to buy a home and to pay it off. And for those people, like in a high debt environment, interest rate environment, the best thing to do is take as much money as you can and pay off your home. Yeah, do you know what I mean? For some people, they want to be rent investors, and they want to invest in as many properties as possible. For those people with the right income and the right risk profile, with financial advice, they go and borrow as much money and pull out as much equity from their house and invest in as much property as possible. And they go to people like, brokers, lending associations, whoever, and they say, I need to borrow as much as I possibly can. Yep. And I'm of the view that the market's going to go up. And, I don't know, I think it's Warren Buffett or whoever says it's not about timing the market, it's time in the market. Yep. So if you got that time in the market mentality where you want to buy, then by all means, go pursue your goal and do that. But there are some people, and it's a personality type thing, that it's that stress and pressure of debt actually sits on their shoulders, okay? And for them, not having a mortgage and having that monkey off their back, having a paid-off home or renting even, allows them to make financial decisions about growing, their investments and growing a business and doing other things that they wouldn't otherwise do if they were crushed by the burden of that debt mentally.
Yeah.
100%. So Dave Ramsey, a YouTuber, financial planner in America, talks about the 7 baby steps to being an everyday millionaire. Step number 1 is pay off your home. And he says that most everyday millionaires have a paid off home. That's like the most common thing between the everyday millionaire. The 9-to-5er takes a wage, tries to make something of themselves, doesn't necessarily start a business or do that risk. The most common factor is that they have a paid off home. Wow. So there's an argument for that, but in the same token, the opportunity cost, especially on paper, everything on paper we can make sense. Like you could make it make sense to buy 7 smaller investment properties, leverage to the tilt, and then assume a 5% growth, and then make all the assumptions and make it look like that's the right strategy for you. But there is an emotional side to debt that no one sees. And when you're looking at just, figures on paper, even a business, you can look at figures on paper, we're going to make all this money and whatever, but you don't know, how does that business impact your life? How does that business impact your marriage? How does that impact your kids? How does that debt impact you as a person? There's horses, everyone has different risk appetites and whatever. We never factor in the risk. We always just look at debt on a piece of paper and never actually factor in how that makes you sleep at night. How does it feel? the people who said take on all the debt in the world, how did that feel when you went from 2 to 6% versus, you know, the other way around?
How do you feel about that, like home debt, having debt on your home and that? Because I've heard you say, like, you wish, you know, sometimes the best setup would be to just pay off a home.
Yeah. But I think I'm at the stage now in life where I feel like if I had paid off my home, it's probably not a bad option. That way, I think we all grew up with the idea of just get debt and just spread it and let everything grow. But I think if you have the home taken care of, then you can kind of play a bit more.
That ties into the asset risk person. So we get business owners in all the time, and when we're drawing up these structure diagrams, like a common scenario, you might have a stay-at-home mum and then a dad who runs a business. A lot of the times we talk about risk versus like a safe versus asset versus risk.
An asset person and a risk person.
So a lot of these families who have a paid off home, it's not unusual for the let's say in the case where it's the wife is a stay-at-home mum, it's the most typical case. She owns a paid off home in her own name, and that's safe, because what happens when you're a business owner and you're a director in a very harsh regulatory environment like we have in Australia, you're susceptible to lots of risk. So you're a director in a small business. You can be sued by a customer, you can be sued by staff, you could go insolvent. Even if you go insolvent, you could be subject to director penalty notices. The worst scenarios we see are where, like, someone is that business owner, they've let all the tax fall onto them, the business fall over, all the tax debt fall onto themselves personally, and the only asset they have is their own paid off home. Yep. So now they're looking at the prospects of going bankrupt, losing their home to pay off the tax. So, you know, sometimes some of the discussions we have of, like, if we're drawing out your next 20 years and you see that there's one person in a relationship, it could be husband or wife or whoever, they're going to take on lots of risk, they're going to take over the world, they're going to build a business, then the person who's more passive in the relationship, who's not going to take on all that business risk, maybe that's a person who's going to buy an asset and pay it off, and maybe you're the person that's going to get leverage yourself to the hilt, buy as much properties as you can, always be in heaps of debt, take on all the business risk. If it pays off, then you'll be a multimillionaire, but if it fails, you're not putting your kids on the street.
Yeah.
So there is a good structure.
It's always nice to not put your kids on the street, man.
Yeah. I try not to. Yeah. Look, I think that it's case by case, but yeah, like, definitely, I'm so surprised at how resilient, like, Sydney people and Australian people are, and considering, like, what we've seen in this economy, tripling the interest rate, and we just see, like, everyone's like business as usual.
Yeah.
And, like, all right, some people are cutting back here and there.
Yeah.
Like, there's a concept of bread and circus where, you know, when people there's a recession coming, you just have to make sure people have enough money to eat and something to entertain them. I went to the Easter show on Good Friday. You could not walk. I was standing still like it was Parramatta Road in traffic, and I physically was bumper to bumper as a human. And I thought to myself, bread and circus. I go, interest rates are high. People don't have money to go on overseas holidays because they're putting money towards the mortgage. What are they doing? They're going to the circus. They're going to the Easter show because it's more affordable to go spend a couple $100 at the Easter show as opposed to going and spending $5-10 grand on an overseas holiday.
It's a great point,
mate. On the transition from rugby league out, can you talk to me about what it was like mentally?
I was pretty fortunate. Like, my transition was a bit of a soft landing, I call it. It was smooth. I was able to stay in sport too. So I do a show on Fox every Tuesday night, and I commentate with SEN Radio. I think that connection to sport still helped the transition because I was able to, comment and get it all off my chest and talk about the sport without feeling consumed by or owned by the sport. So the transition-wise, I would definitely say that helped. The finance job was a new challenge for me. It was exciting, and I still do a bit. Some work with the Eels, that the club I played at, and I've got a sports business as well. I started recently, so I like challenging myself and trying things. But the lending association piece was a real big part of the puzzle for me in terms of helping me have a new challenge to get excited about and a bit of purpose. Because a lot of the guys that retire, there's a couple of things they struggle with the most. One is lack of routine. So when you're playing, you're like army. So you're told where to be, what time to be there, what to eat, what to drink, how much to weigh, and then you retire and you kind of spat out and you're on your own and you don't have that.
On that thought, like, I just want to interrupt you to say, I've got a saying, we've got an internal joke where I always say to you, it's not safe being friends with Tim Mannah. All right, now without going into all the details, it's actually a funny thing I say to you because what I notice about you, and this speaks to your virtues as a person, and I think it speaks to your loyalty as a person. I see you're a public profile, Sydney public person anyway.
D-grade celebrity, yeah.
D-grade celebrity, but more than the average man. I see so many people going through hardship in the public eye, and I see you actually being a support, and I see you being a loyal friend and someone that is there working behind the scenes, sometimes publicly, sometimes privately, to actually uplift those people and support them. It speaks to you as a person, but why do you find that important to be that person that's doing that, especially for these football players?
I've got an advantage of knowing people on an intimate level. So, there's guys that can get in some trouble, some strife, and it's very easy for people to point the finger at them and say all sorts of terrible things about them without actually knowing them. So for me, it's a lot easier to have my view and support them because I know them intimately. I know them back to front. I know what their character's like. I know what they're like under pressure. I know. So when people throw all this mud at someone and then people start believing it's real, and all of a sudden you got this character that isn't a real person that everyone's created and looks at as if they exist. And then they find either they'll stand up for the person that I actually know. Yep. You actually don't know that person. Like you're basing your views on this person that isn't even real.
Not a real view.
So I've just been lucky enough to know people on a closer level, and there's been times that people don't like the fact that I stand up for them, but they're my mates, and I know them and their character.
Mate, that's very well put. Like I actually love and admire that about you. I see you putting your neck out for people that are in the public eye might be shameful to be associated with or being judged, and you've got the benefit of knowing people intimately, supporting Jenko 300 games or all sorts of things. Like you put yourself out and you say, I know someone, I'm not going to drop someone as a friend just because of someone else thinks or there's a different perception. Does that tie into it's virtues and then it's mindset, and then when we ask you, how do you see your life going forward, your future, wanting to help athletes, is that passion that you have tie into why you wanting to help athletes in the future?
Yeah, so I started that sports business, which just excites me a lot because I partner with Norm Black. He's the founder of Tripadil, and he has the same passions I have in terms of wanting to help people, and he loves his sport. I love my sport. We both have some great access in terms of what we can do to help athletes and connect brands with sport. So it's something I love, and that excites me. Obviously, the form of my finance job is my bread and butter and how I live, but I really enjoy that connection with sport and being able to help change people's lives and do it in a way that hasn't been done before. Australia has been very limited in the sporting space, and even you look at our company will do a whole bunch of different things, so it's not just pigeonholed to one thing. But even you look at sports management, a lot of agents in sport in Australia haven't created a big business because it's just been kind of like that whole broker mentality. The one man band, and they don't want to spend the resources, they don't want to hire people, they don't want to grow a company. It's just about I'm going to do as good as I can with myself and less overheads. And I think also it's a stage where they've got. It's also the way, especially Rugby League in Australia, it's designed to be secretive. So a lot of them won't grow their company because they've got so many skeletons that they can't share with other people. So then all of a sudden now you're limited to just being you, and then your company's only as good as you are. Whereas I'd love to build like a proper organisation, like a sporting organisation that is a safe place for people, opportunities for people that they wouldn't have had without us.
And you're going to tie in that caring for the person, the mental health approach, that all the things you talk, transition post career. Like you want to be that person that is providing the opportunities, but also supporting the people behind.
Yeah, well, even enterprise or education or helping athletes understand that it's not, having a finance division of your company. It's something as simple as that. Just being like a one-stop shop where everyone can come in and know that everything's taken care of, and there's no agendas. There's no, I'm getting this if you use this person. I'm getting this if you, what can we do to help you? It's all right there for you.
I love that, man.
Let us open our world up to you.
Yeah. I get this feeling of you care about the brotherhood coming through, sport, mental health, sports, caring about people. Growing up in a competitive environment, like brothers, footy and all that. Do you feel like that's how important is that? Are we missing that today?
If I'm being honest, I've never considered myself competitive, which is probably weird because I played in the NRL.
Yeah,
but I was always very competitive against myself. So
driven.
I would be always in the top 2 or 3 trainers that in the off season, whether it's a fitness test or a strength test, and it was never because I was trying to beat that person. It was always because last time I did the 1.2K, I got 4 minutes 45. I want to get 4 minutes 40 this time.
That's awesome, man.
So I try to push myself, and I'm doing the same thing now in the business world. Like if we have a bad week in lending association because my numbers aren't good, I'm not upset because I'm worried about my position in the business. I'm upset because we did this last week. We should be doing this. Yeah. So
where'd you get that? So that means that the one story that sticks out to me when I hear about yourself is, I think I could be wrong, and it could be Chinese whispers, but the story of every Boxing Day you go on the biggest run of your year.
Christmas Day. Yeah.
Christmas Day. And you do that because I'll let you share. Why do you do that?
Yeah. So now that I'm an old man and a dad, I don't do Christmas Day, so I don't need to. But yeah, my whole playing career, on a Christmas Day, I'd do a really long run before we went to church in the morning. And I'd do it because I knew no one else was training that day. So it was like my way to have a bit of a head start or a bit of a bit of an advantage. And even going into, so if we started training on November 1, I'd start preparing myself to get in shape. So by come November 1, I'm not coming, like from scratch trying to be fit. I'm I'm ready to go. Like I'm 3 weeks into whatever program I've started.
Where'd you get that from?
Well, I had to, man. Like I wasn't the most talented player, so I didn't have a lot of skill. What made me in my career was my hard work ethic. So probably Big Freddie, my old man, has instilled that. But yeah, for me, I had to work hard, and by working hard is kind of my strength in my career. Was my best game and worst game were very small gap between the two, and that's what coaches want. They want to know they can rely on someone. They know what they're going to get out of them, and that's kind of what happened.
As we're wrapping up, there's just one thing that sticks out to me as a massive disappointment.
I feel like there's probably a lot, but yeah, that's all one.
So that's how you really feel.
There's the one thing is, when we mentioned early in the pod, you said that the highlight of your playing career was actually winning the game against the Bulldogs for Parramatta, making the grand final.
Yeah,
that was the highlight.
Yeah,
I really got my hopes up today because I thought when I asked you what's the highlight of your career, you'd say that this was the highlight of your career. Actually, being in the newspaper.
Look at that formidable props.
You know what I mean? We'll put this on the screen later for
the
old mate. So
there you go.
That's just saying. For you,
So
I held on.
So
to
this
that.
Was it the Torch,
something like that,
the Bankstown newspaper. So bit of Jamie Penn, I don't know how to say
Penderam, yeah.
He's now one of the chief writers for the Telegraph or the Herald in rugby.
It must have been the article.
So he called me actually a couple of weeks ago to do a story. And I remember I said to him, "Do you remember?" He goes, "Yeah, I remember." So this is where he started.
He remembers that.
Yeah, he remembers it. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So for the people who don't believe I played some rugby league, it's a photo there, me and Tim Mannah, mate, playing. This is my claim.
Yeah, well, mate, don't play it down. Captain New South Wales, CIS, captain our school team to a grand final. Like, we
had some fun. But mate, I want to say thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I want to give you this gift.
Mate,
a Latitude cap.
Thank you very much.
Shirt, just a token of our appreciation and the fact that we'd love to see you.
I like that it's size large. So we've got a Eels former player reunion today.
Yeah,
and they've got these special custom made shirts they're giving everyone, and I had the list of the names and the size of your shirt. They got me down as 3XL.
Come on.
I know. And when I had a chat with young Dave Gow, I said, "Mate, are you serious?" He's like, "Oh, they're a tight fit, these ones." I'm like, "Oh." So yeah, I appreciate you giving me a large. It says you respect my body image, and I appreciate that.
I think you look great, personally.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You've come a long way. Mate, do you want to, where can they find you? Lending Association?
Oh,
everywhere. You're everywhere. I don't know. It's Fox Sports.
Lendingassociation.com.au. Tune into SEN Radio 1170. Every Sunday night I've got a show. I commentate the games on the Thursday and Friday night. Tuesday nights I'm on Fox at 6 p.m, 5:02. Tune into that. And stay tuned for Agency Falcon. I think it's going to be a really exciting business. It's going to really shift the sports landscape.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you. Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you. Thanks
for tuning in to the Lat Chat podcast. We'll see you again next time.